last piece that we would like to perform for you is called Hidakagawa Idii Zakura. This actually is a story that's been told in many different versions in Japan. One of the most famous, the other most famous versions is in the No drama. And in the No drama, some of you may have heard of this story as Gojoji. In this story, there's a young woman who falls in love with a young man. Now that's not so uncommon. In this case, the young man has no interest in her. Guys, you know how this works, right? Anyway, he has no interest in her. This young man, Anchin, has business at the home of the village headman. He comes to the house, and he's staying at the house of the village headman for several days. While he's there, he meets the headman's daughter, Kiyohime. Kiyohime falls madly in love with Anchin. He has no interest in her whatsoever. And in fact, I guess he's kind of creeped out by her. But anyway, she begins to think that he's going to take her away with him when he leaves to be his wife. He realizes she's completely deluded, and in order to avoid a scene, decides that when he leaves the house, he should not leave in the daytime, when she could make a scene of it. And so he chooses to leave in the middle of the night. Kiyohime, though, realizes he's left, and wakes up and says, "Oh my goodness, he forgot to take me with him. I guess I better hurry." And so, Anchin makes the trip to the banks of the Hidaka River, which is actually in Wakayama Prefecture, just south of Osaka. He crosses the river with the help of the ferry boatman, and then goes on to Dojoji where he can hide. An hour or two later, Kiyohime arrives, comes to the river, and realizes, what am I going to do? I have to get across here. She calls to the boatman. The boatman finally wakes up, and he says, "What are you doing? It's 2 o'clock in the morning." And she said, "Oh, I have to get across the river." She says, "I'll come back in the morning. I'm closed." And she goes, "Oh, no, I must get across. My love is already on the other side of the river heading toward Ojoji, and his name is Anchin." And the boatman says, "Oh, you're that girl. I heard all about you. Well, let me tell you, he paid me not to take you across." She says, "Oh, no, you would never do such a thing. He's in love with me and me only." And then the boatman decides to start playing with her. By now he's awake. He decides to start playing with her, and he jokes with her, and he teases her, and he makes fun of her, and it makes her angry, it makes her cry, it makes her sad. But finally he convinces her that Anchin-san actually has a girlfriend elsewhere. And when she finally realizes how much she has deluded herself, her devotion and her love turn into something much darker and much scarier. They turn into a kind of jealous rage. And that jealous rage manifests itself not just in her voice, not just in her actions, but it transforms indeed her soul and her entire figure in a way that the puppet theater, I think, does quite well. The boatman finally gives up, and when he realizes what this young woman can be or can turn into, he decides it's time to get out of here. We'd like to present for you now Hidakagawa Idii Zakura, but we have one addition to this performance that we haven't had in the earlier pieces, and that is the Taiyu. And we'd like to present to you the Taiyu Matsuo Ryuzo. And our shamisen player, whom you met earlier as a puppeteer, Hiroshita Yukihiko. Notice that most of the musical portions are actually usually narration. The spoken portions are Mr. Matsuo doing the voices of the two characters, of Kiyohime and Sendo. So most of the musical sung portions is telling the story, and the spoken portions are dialogue. We'd like to present for you now Hidakagawa Idii Zakura, the scene at the ferry crossing. Thank you.